विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यादिशतारिणे श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानन्द श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृन्द हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम हरे राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम हरे राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे श्री श्री राधा नंदनेश्वर की श्री श्री गौर निताय की श्रील प्रभुपाद की हरे कृष्ण. Okay, so Hare Krishna everyone. We'll continue with our studies today. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Hare Krishna. How is everyone? Good? All right. Okay, well, we're going to make some good progress today, hopefully. We're going to cover chapters 5 and 6. And we spent quite a bit of time discussing transcendental knowledge, karma yoga, etc. So we will basically move through chapter 5 fairly quickly, as a lot of the concepts have been covered already, but some key items we will reinforce. So are you all ready with your books and notes and whatever else you need? So this chapter is called Karma Yoga, Action in Krishna Consciousness. And really the last 3 chapters, chapters 3, 4, and 5, have all dealt with this. And of course, chapter 2 also introduced this entire subject. So Arjun is asking a very similar question to the one he asked before. You asked me to renounce work and then recommend work with devotion. Now, which of the two is more beneficial? So text 2, Vidisha, could you read text 2?
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you. Both Sanskrit and English, or just English?
Just English.
Okay. The personality of Godhead replied, "The renunciation of work and work in devotion are both good for liberation. But of the two, work in devotional service is better than renunciation of work."
Yes. So it's very clear from Krishna's point of view, right? Work in devotional service or renunciation, which is basically on the platform of jnana. Work in devotion is better, because along the way you get a lot of jnana also. And the idea is that actually what we need to combine these things. That's ultimately where this chapter is heading. There's different items of discussion, but basically the idea is that work in devotional service and renunciation of work, what we need to know is how to work in devotional service with a renounced spirit. So it's not that the two are contradictory. There are two elements which allow us to advance properly. We have to be renounced from fruits of work. We've spoken about that. And then working in devotional service means to actually carry out those activities which are necessary and are prescribed activities, or are activities of the specific bhakti path. So that's a fairly easy concept. It is kind of elaborated in many ways in terms of how one can be inactive while active. We touched on the tongue twister verse, right? When he sees action in inaction and inaction in action, etc. So I think really a lot of this is revision for this chapter. So does that make sense? There's another element that we can bring into this. Many people like to think they're renouncing, but what are they renouncing? What can you renounce? What is actually yours to renounce? We'll contemplate that question. We may have so many possessions. We may have so many roles, so many positions. Positions and possessions, right? That's what material life is all about. All to do with the ego. But really, is any of it ours? The position is temporary. You may be a king one day. You may be in disgrace the next day. You may be a wealthy man one day. You may have nothing the next day. Quite possible. Was any of it really ours anyway? The answer, I think everyone knows, is clearly no. It's just items that were under our care for some period of time with no inherent connection with us. Right? I think for some people don't necessarily appreciate that, but it's something as devotees we learn and really understand properly, that all the external connections of this world have no inherent connection to us. It's not that wealth or anything is in any way ingrained with our psyche or even our physical body or anything like that. So really, then what are you renouncing? Can't renounce it because it's not yours anyway. So therefore, the devotee's path, that there are items under my care by Krishna's grace, by the mercy of karma, and those items are best engaged in devotional service. While we have this body, items are needed, items are useful. And the best way forward is to engage those items in Krishna's devotional service. That's the principle that underlines the devotee's actual behavior after reading and studying topics on karma and renunciation. One is renounced from everything that does not bring one to Krishna, and one is attached to everything that does bring one to Krishna. Sometimes when someone tries to follow an ideology of renunciation, they give up absolutely everything, including people, including the sadhus, including the teachers, including the guides, with the idea that I'm renounced from anyone and everyone. But then with that, they also renounce their very ability to make progress. So It's not particularly healthy for spiritual progress. We should be very much attached to the devotees, to the movement, to the Shastra, because that is what will keep us strong and allow us to move forward. And yes, everything else should be utilized in the sense of Yukta Vairagya in a proper way, not mistreated either. Devotees should ideally be very respectful to all things, knowing that either they are directly Krishna's energy or part of his external energy. And somehow everything is connected to Krishna. So that's how chapter 5 develops. And this whole concept of Yukta Vairagya comes up very much. And we perform our duties without attachment, as text 10, etc., emphasizes, and we surrender all the results to Krishna. And then that is called Nishkama Karma Yoga. Nishkam means no desire for personal calm, for personal enjoyment, personal fulfillment or satisfaction. Work is done for Krishna's pleasure because all the fruits are offered to him. So Arjuna is being brought gradually up to a platform of this war is tricky for you. Krishna is explaining to Arjuna, this war is tricky for you, but you don't need to actually worry about it. You simply need to perform your duty under my direction. And then everything will be taken care of, including whether you succeed or not. If you simply try to do your duty, then whether you succeed or not, if you leave that to me, your service will be complete. And therefore you will have fulfilled your purpose here in this life. So what is our purpose in life? That's a big question. And we all wonder that. What is my purpose? What am I meant to do in this world? Is it just all random, or do I have a purpose in the movement also? What is my purpose at Prabhupada's lotus feet? How can I find that out? That becomes a subject matter of very important inquiry over our formative years as a devotee. What can I do usefully for the mission of Krishna? Which interestingly, simultaneously and directly translates into what will bring me benefit in my journey. Very interesting that in this Sankirtan mission inaugurated by Lord Chaitanya, all the efforts we place for the mission directly, tangibly translate into efforts for our own progress. The devotee almost desires not to keep thinking about themselves and instead serves Lord Chaitanya. And in doing so, Lord Chaitanya gives the devotee more than they could possibly ever imagine if they served themselves. It's very, very interesting combination of factors. And almost you have to twist the normal agenda of this material world back to front. What shall I do for myself? Is that okay? Are you with me so far? All right. From around text 17 onwards, there is a description of liberation and an emphasis on the super soul. And whilst as devotees, our program is not so directly focused on Paramatma realization, it becomes a factor in all of our bhakti process anyway, because we are aware that Paramatma, the super soul, is with us at all times. He's with us, he's our companion. He's our friend, our well-wisher, and he remains hidden. And this development is very important for the conclusion that we'll see in chapter 5. So let's read a couple of verses in connection with this. Something to do with the non-dual existence that a person can attain, which is very much connected with moksha or liberation. So if I could ask maybe Mazar, if you could read 24.
Uh, One whose happiness is within, who is active and rejoices within, and whose aim is inward, is actually the perfect mystic. He is liberated in the Supreme, and ultimately he attains the Supreme.
Yes, the contrast is made here that one derives happiness when one turns inwards rather than when one turns outwards, meaning attempting to contact the senses with the sense objects. That's basically what we do all our lives. We spent some time discussing the whole interplay of senses, sense objects, sense organs, the karmendriyas and the jnanendriyas in the first few lessons, where we covered those items. So outward means you engage your senses in contacting sense objects. Inward means one focuses on their inner connection with Krishna, here specifically Paramatma realization, and it is done through a process of detachment from the material world. Understanding that all the objects of this world are not meant for our enjoyment and our, how can you say, for my consumption. They're not for my consumption. All desirable objects in this world are there by Krishna's, according to Krishna's plan. They weren't specifically made for me to exploit and enjoy. And so the distinction is made in the last few verses leading up to this one of how one remains steady and equipoised. One should remain steady and equipoised, detached from external sources of gratification, and instead turn inward into inward towards the Supreme Lord and take shelter of the Supersoul. That's the principle. And so transcending duality is very much a key item. That is text 25. We have Roshni, you're here, 25, please.
Those who are beyond the dualities that arise from doubts, whose minds are engaged within, who are always busy working for the welfare of the living beings, and who are free from all sins, achieve liberation in the Supreme.
Thank you. Avoiding duality means avoiding hankering, hatred, lamentation, right? I want this, I don't want that. I like this item, I don't like that item. Because they realize that all such items are simply an interplay between the sense objects and the senses. They have no internal reality or no internal permanence. So what do these people do? Well, okay, you don't do something, that's fine. You don't allow the senses to interact endlessly with sense objects. So what do you do instead? Well, the point is, they're busy working for the welfare of all living beings. That's getting onto the platform of a compassionate devotee. They're busy working for the welfare of all living beings through the process of bhakti, through the process of transcendence. And by doing so, they do not incur sins. So this is a very powerful result of following our bhakti process. That in doing so, the constant engine that allows us to incur sins is stopped, largely stopped. Because the activities we now do are uplifting and of potency. And then one attains liberation in the Supreme. And therefore liberation with the Supreme is almost guaranteed by someone who manages to control their mind, acts with discipline, and constantly endeavors. And this is really the subject matter of 26. And so hopefully you're all getting a sense that this is a bit of an Ashtanga yoga kind of process. It is a process of sensory restraint. And the whole process of yoga, Ashtanga yoga, includes, well, the eightfold practice of yoga, starting with yam, niyam, asana, dharana, pratyahara, all of those heading all the way up to absorption and samadhi. Starts with rules and regulations, do this, don't do that, act with discipline. When one does that, you'll get a little description of what that might entail in text 27 and 28, in terms of the practical yoga practice. Simon, do you want to read that for us?
Shutting out all external sense objects, keeping the eyes and vision concentrated between the two eyebrows, suspending the inward and outward breaths within the nostrils, and thus controlling the mind, senses, and intelligence. The transcendentalist, aiming at liberation, becomes free from desire, fear, and anger. One who is always in this state is certainly liberated.
Okay, should we try this? Okay, keep the eyes and vision concentrated between the two eyebrows. You almost have to kind of squint or something like that. Suspend the inward and outward breaths within the nostrils. There's a certain technique to that. Control the mind, senses, and intelligence. And you do that for a long period of time. If some of you want to try that at home, you may wish to. See what result that brings. Certainly, if you manage to do it for some extensive period of time, you will attain, you'll be situated in a very much focused and concentrated stage. That's if you manage to switch off the phone so it doesn't keep beeping, or or if you manage to remove all other distractions from yourself. And yes, it's a process. It's an item of transcendence. Now, as devotees, we're also kind of familiar. Acclimatized, I wanted to say. We're kind of acclimatized to the principles of this verse. Why do you concentrate the eyes and vision between the two eyebrows? Well, the reason is that then they won't be distracted by things outside. Right? It's a bit like putting blinkers on a horse. You've seen a horse, often the blinkers are put on the horse so that the horse doesn't get distracted by things from the side and can continue straight ahead as per the driver's commands. So this is basically blinkering your senses so that the chance for additional sense objects to come and distract you from the corners of your eyes is reduced. So it's more of an internal process rather than physically squinting. It's the idea is that you focus on a point ahead and in the middle, and you don't close your eyes entirely because you may fall asleep. So this process of yoga requires this often half semi-closed eyes. And it can bring about a sense of stillness and peace as long as the mind doesn't agitate, which it is highly unlikely not to. Mind is highly likely to agitate you while you're trying this process. But if you can do this, you can be liberated. If you actually succeed with this, you can be liberated, and that's from the platform of almost Jnana Ashtanga Yoga practice. However, Krishna is going to present the ultimate conclusion on all of this in text 29. And this is such an important verse because Srila Prabhupada called it the peace formula. Now imagine, just consider the world around us. So many people are trying to attain peace, right? In the midst of wars. They want peace, but what does it mean? Well, they should read this verse. Yes, let's read this verse. Let's read the Sanskrit and the English. Who would like to read? Ganesh Prabhu, can you read?
I can try, Prabhu.
Yeah.
Bhoktaram yagna tapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram shudram sarvabhutanam nyatva mam santim vrichati. A person in full consciousness of me, knowing me to be the ultimate beneficiary of all sacrifices and austerities, the supreme lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities, attains peace from the pangs of material miseries.
Yes. This is almost certainly one of your memorization verses. Bhoktaram yagyatapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram suhridam sarvabhutanam gyatva shantim richati. Bhoktaram yagyatapasam, the Supreme Lord, directly is the beneficiary of all sacrifices. He is the Lord Sarva Loka Maheshwaram. Maha Ishvara means the big controller. Sarva Loka, of all places. Sarva Loka Maheshwaram. He's the controller of everything in creation. Suhridam. Suhridam. Surid. Rid means the heart. Surid means very, very close to the heart. Closer to every living entity than anything else for that living entity. Situated right in the heart. Suridam Sarva Bhutanam. Of all the living entities. Bhuta means living entities. Sarva Bhutanam. Jnatva mam shantim richati. With such a knowledge of me, and this is Krishna speaking, Jnatva mam, jnana means knowledge. In this knowledge of me, this understanding of me, he attains shantim. He attains peace, relief from material pangs. Does it have anything to do with a 10-point plan or a, whatever resolutions are made to end wars or whatever? Is that kind of the same line as this? This is on a different wavelength, isn't it? This piece is on a different wavelength to the temporary, mundane arrangements that will be made using so many different instruments. This is at a fundamental level. That when you understand that the Supreme Lord is actually the well-wisher of all living entities, including your enemy, this requires some depth and some maturity. He's not just the Lord of me and my family and those I like. He's actually the Lord of all those I don't like as well. And maybe all those that do cause me trouble constantly. And in some cases, if the country's at war or there's some big strife going on or someone is oppressed in some way by someone or some entity or some business or something or other, all of that still happens to be connected to Krishna. Now, this requires maturity because most people are just trying to find a comfortable, happy life for themselves. And their idea of God is someone who removes all my miseries and difficulties from me. After all, that's God, He's meant to make sure I am happy. That's how most people view God. God is great and I will love God or I will serve him as long as he looks after all my interests, which include Janma, Aishwarya, Shruta, Shri, Vera, include ambitions for wealth, ambitions for progeny, ambitions for position, ambitions for power, ambitions for whatever it is, strength, beauty, fame, wisdom. As long as God, you supply me those, I'm your devoted, undying servant. That's how we think. It's a little bit ironic there. But yes, there's a different viewpoint altogether. That if we understand that God, Krishna, is the Lord Master of all living entities, every single person, that means he certainly does know what the other living entities are doing to his especially favorite living entity, me. Right? He knows that I'm being harassed by this person. That means we should think twice. Somehow or other, it's not meant to happen. It's part of the overall plan, because at the very least, even though we know very clearly the Lord doesn't endorse or doesn't promote any misbehavior, and he's neutral to all, he certainly permits stuff to take place. Well, we have to be very clear on this. He certainly permits horrendous atrocities to take place. He permits wars to take place. He permits injustices to take place. Sometimes he stops them. Sometimes he doesn't. Sometimes injustices go on for long periods of time. So what do? Give him up? Okay, I don't like you, God. You shouldn't behave like this. There should be some different behavior I'm expecting from you. You don't meet my standards now. Okay, I'm not going to worship you. I'm going to do whatever I want. Well, let's step back a bit there. This is the Supreme Lord, the one who can save you from birth and death, repeated birth and death. He is your well-wisher too. But there's a complex interplay of events and actions and things going on in this world. And if we are totally engrossed in the activities and occurrences of this world, we will never really understand the fundamental concept of the Lord and us as an eternal relationship of the spiritual world. The entertainments and dramas of this world, painful though they are, need to be dealt with, but not as the most important item on our agenda. The topmost item on our agenda should be to put ourselves in a situation where we don't have to deal with this stuff again. And that's not going to happen by solving the specific problem or situation that's presented before us right now. We have to simultaneously deal with our almost callings or pullings in this world. We have to solve the problem fundamentally by becoming a pure devotee of Krishna and going back to him in the spiritual world. Then there is no more birth, death, old age, disease, adidevik, adhyatmic, adibautic miseries. All of them are cancelled completely. And simultaneously, because we're still here in this world, we've got to deal with some of the stuff around us. And so better we try to deal with that with a spirit of detachment and by taking solid guidance from Shastra. Krishna is telling us here how you can attain peace. And it is by recognizing that the Lord is in charge of everything. That itself can put the person in the greatest stress into a situation of peace. What is there to be afraid of? The Lord is in charge of everything. It won't solve your problems directly, but it will be one step towards you approaching the problem in a much more sensible way, rather than reacting from a basis of anger, frustration. So this verse is a very, very key verse. It is Prabhupada's peace formula. One has to understand that, as Prabhupada says, the greatest peace formula is simply this: Lord Krishna is the beneficiary in all human activities. So even if you come up with a 25-point peace plan, do those points lead to Krishna being the beneficiary? If not, maybe you need to add a few more points. Something's missing, because you will never actually have peace otherwise. Okay, let's take a few questions, some discussion. There are any points you would like to bring up on this chapter? Been quite an adventure going through Karma Yoga, with transcendental knowledge thrown in chapter 4 to allow us to. You see, without the knowledge that's given in chapter 4, you wouldn't really accept all the items I've just mentioned here. The Supreme Lord is the Lord of all living entities. It's been there since the dawn of creation. Yes, for this, you need to know these verses from chapter 4, right? Which deal with, in the beginning, I instructed this imperishable science of yoga. Yada yada hi dharmasya. Right, and I'm sure you've been learning some of these verses. And Sakalene mahata yoga nashta parantapa evam parampara praptam imam rajarshayo vidu. How Krishna is different to Arjuna. That was discussed in chapter 4. Janma karma chame divyam. And all of these give us an understanding of the nature of the person Krishna. If you don't understand that and you think he's just an ordinary person, just like us, maybe a little more powerful, you will simply not understand this verse 29. Because he is Bhoktaram Yajna Tapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram. Sarva Bhutanam. He's the Maheshwar of Sarva Bhuta. This is a key aspect. Anything? Would you like to bring up anything on those? Okay. Well, in that case, we'll move on to chapter 6, which is called Dhyana Yoga. And Krishna proceeds first to give a little bit of a kind of just a little summary. And he speaks on this topic of renunciation. We touched on it in chapter 5, right? That it is not a competition between renunciation or working. The idea is to work in a spirit of renunciation. And so Krishna brings in the concept of the renounced order of life, sannyas. Anashrita karma phala karyam karma karotya sasannyasi cha yogi cha naniragnir na chakriyaha. So in the classical definition, a sannyasi doesn't engage in yagyas, sacrifices directly, because they are situated inwards, focusing. However, what we're understanding here is that there is another person who may actually be superior or at least equal. And that is the person who may do so many yagyas, may do so many duties, so many actions. But if he is unattached to the fruits of work, he is considered to be the greatest sannyasi. So this is an important concept for us. The Varnas and the ashrams are there to give a framework to society. And yes, depending on your particular Varna, your situation, your ashram, you're meant to just be stable and happy. You're not meant to be constantly trying to do something else, trying to be something that you're not. You're meant to just be happy in your Varna, whatever it is, whether it's conventionally high or low, or more austere or less austere. You're meant to just be happily situated. But a healthy society is one which educates everyone into being actually on the sannyas platform through internal development. And that's very important because there is no restriction on anyone attaining pure devotional service through any of the varnas or the ashrams, because it's completely transcendental to it. But this concept of varna and ashram, the simple reality of running the world and organizing citizens within the world, means that this is a very, very powerful method for bringing about God consciousness. All right? So Krishna is starting off with this strong sort of explanation. Work for me, Krishna is saying. Don't be a yogi. Don't renounce yourself. Don't go to the Himalayas, as Arjun wants to do. Renounce the battle. Work for me. And at the heart of this is giving up the desire for sense gratification. That's text 2. The heart of it all is this giving up the desire for sense gratification. And there are many, many items now mentioned in this chapter. And this chapter is very much a textbook or a lesson on the mind, specifically controlling the mind. Very useful for all of us. Often the mind is a bit of a nightmare for us, and whether we're doing our japa, or whether we're trying to read or to focus or to remain disciplined, the mind is getting in the way. And so we're going to read some very important verses now. As we go through, please just raise your hands, or just if you have some comment to make or some question, just do it on an ongoing basis. Otherwise, I'll just keep going. So text 5, please. I'll give you a sequence, and if you can just, when I prompt you for the next verse, if you can just keep to that sequence. So Mazhar first, then Roshni, then Guanesh, then Bidisha, okay? And then you just go back to Mazhar. All right, so Mazhar Prabhu, could you do text 5, please?
One must deliver himself with the help of his mind, and not degrade himself. The mind is the friend of the conditioned soul, and his enemy as well.
For
The
him
mind,
who is
okay, no, I'll pause and give give a few points on each one. One must deliver himself with the help of the mind. We often hear the mind is a rogue, it's troublesome. It is, but you can't do without it. Because the mind is the very glue that allows you to function in this world as almost an intermediary between the soul and the gross body and the gross world. Right? All those components are involved. The ego, without which you could not function in this material world unless you have a hefty dose of ignorance. And the mind, which acts as the repository of all your thoughts and concepts. And then the intelligence, which is the processing aspect of it, the distinguishing aspect, decision-making. If your mind is not controlled, you're in trouble. Because instead of taking guidance from the soul, from the super soul, and then controlling the senses, one takes the impulses from the senses directly. The tongue demands, I want this. The eyes demand, I want this. The ears say, I want to listen to this. And immediately the mind goes, yeah, let me make up a plan to deliver that to you now. Actually, it should be the other way around. From Shastra, from super soul, we understand, the mind understands what it should be connecting to, the service of the Lord. And therefore the intelligence is meant to cooperate to keep the mind in that condition of wanting to very strongly move forward in devotional service. So it's a switching around that needs to take place. Instead of the senses pulling the mind, it is meant to be the intelligence carefully directing the mind. And then the mind will naturally control the senses. Did I give you this analogy? And you've seen it. If you look on the front cover of the Bhagavad Gita, there are the horses and the chariot. Sometimes the senses are compared to the horses. And if you have horses which are not under the control of the driver, well, they can go anywhere they want. They'll go wild, one pulling this way, one pulling that way, one pulling forwards, one stopping for a quick bite, some nice juicy green grass, just meandering around, doing whatever they want. No discipline, no focus, no achievement. So the senses need to be very much under the control of the mind, because otherwise they will drag one and literally tear one apart. That's how voracious they are. Senses are very strong. People with practically full success in their life destroy things because the senses are unrestrained. And they demand something which is not desirable or healthy. So the mind is the friend of the soul and his enemy too. There you go. You have within yourself something that is your friend and is your enemy. And what do we do with it? Well, that's text 6. Roshni?
For him who has conquered the mind is the best of friends, but for one who has failed to do so, his mind will remain the greatest enemy.
Yes, it's not a question of having a nice debate with the mind, a group discussion, or a kind of let's clear the air kind of meeting, or let me understand where you're coming from, dear mind, and I'll let you know a few things I would like to do, and then we'll come to some kind of amicable agreement. Not really meant to be like that. It's meant to be fully driven from one direction to the other. The mind needs to be conquered because it's wayward and wild. It needs to be conquered. The mind will only negotiate on behalf of the senses. It's not useful for the aspiring yogic practitioner. The senses are fully engrossed in this material world. Therefore, any agenda that comes from the senses is to be rejected automatically, because those senses are of this material world. So therefore, it's not the case that you kind of negotiate with the mind and have a happy, stable coexistence. The mind's agenda will drag you down 100%. Therefore, you need to actually follow a process whereby the mind is controlled by superior intelligence. That's the principle. Now, the practice is that actually some negotiation is required. That's the practice. The principle is that the mind needs to come under the control of the intelligence and Shastra, scripture, and the Supreme Lord. But there's an intermediate stage in between that, in achieving that, where currently we are under complete control of the mind. And the mind is always running after the senses. Now, there has to be some kind of steady, progressive change. And you can't simply swap from one to the other instantly. So you're going to have to do it step by step. Okay, mind, I will give you 10%, 50% leeway today, and I'm having 50%. Next month is going to be 40% for you, and a bit more for me. And it will hopefully increase like that. So there will be some balancing going on. But the principle is that the mind's demands, driven by the senses, are not to be trusted or taken seriously. It is the intelligence governed by transcendental intelligence which can actually represent the true needs of the real living entity, which is the soul. Don't forget, the senses are not the real living entity. Neither is the mind. The soul is the real living entity. Prabhu, are you raising your hand there, Ganesh? Yeah, okay.
Prabhu, in terms of, you said like 20%, 40%, and slowly moving that bar to starting to let ourselves control ourselves instead of our senses controlling us. What kind of things could, like, do you think, would that be like moving our content intake from being material to Krishna consciousness or something like that? Like moving our senses to being used for Krishna consciousness? Or how would we what should we do in terms of to slowly start that? Instead of, because there's obviously a lot of, like in our Shastra, there's a lot of big things that we could do, but it seems like when you start them, you're not going to be very consistent with it. So yeah, do you have any?
It's a good question. Definitely, as you've suggested, content is one way you can start. You can start regulating that aspect. Obviously, we start from 100% sense gratificatory content, and possibly somehow, by some miracle, something spiritual also became an item of sense exploration for us, an intellectual curiosity or something. And then when we started going into it more, we started learning about the whole principle of yoga, which demands far more than a cursory little bit of entertainment. It requires then more. So then if you want to explore that, you apply that fully. Of course, you're never at any loss, because if it doesn't work out, you can always go back to the mind endlessly contemplating sense objects. It's not that you're going to lose out in any way. You're not learning to become a mindless automaton through this process. You're under full control. So that becomes something to try. So yes, content, because content drives what motivates you. That is a very good way to start the process of controlling. Instead of reading 100% nonsense on the internet, reduce it to 90% and start reading 10% Gita, for example. And so many other items of inspiration, like the Gita. And it can also happen in a few other ways. It can happen in the domain of time. Now, most of the time in a day, we will typically spend on sense gratificatory activities or in tasks that will lead to my sense gratification in the future. Like studies, etc. They're not in themselves directly enjoyable. Most people struggle like anything through studies and homework and whatever. But they know they do it for a purpose, for future sense gratification, higher salary, better prospects, and all of that business. You can start analyzing your day, or maybe a week is more practical, so you can get more of a wholesome picture of the whole scenario. What proportion of the week do you spend on sense gratificatory agendas? My immediate, future, or extended sense gratification? Consider it in all those categories. And then because we normally hear about extended sense gratification and personal, right? So that personal, immediate and future, they're both part of it. Consider that. And then see what proportion is
I have another question, Prabhu.
activity, spiritual.
Yeah. you said the thing you said about the extended sense gratification reminds me of something I was thinking about before. It's like sometimes, so like if I bought an alarm clock, right? The alarm clock is kind of not really a perfect example, but it's a simple example. Like I bought an alarm clock, and I could say I'm buying this thing so I can wake up early and chant, but I could be buying it for something else. Like an alarm clock is a pretty simple example. Like, but how do you not let yourself justify things with a Krishna conscious background? Like if I say, "Oh, I'm gonna buy this thing so I can read the Gita off it." Like if I buy a laptop, I'm gonna buy this so I can listen to class, or buy headphones to listen to class. But then you might be buying it to sense gratify yourself in other ways.
Definitely. I must get the latest iPhone 17 Pro Max so that I can take the today's darshan pictures and
Yeah.
send it to my friends and therefore increase their Krishna consciousness. Well, someone needs to tell you, hang on there. That's not one of the required items in the process of devotional service. It doesn't quite fit into one of the 9 processes of devotional service. Now, for someone, that may well be a good consideration. For
Mm.
example, our Pujari teams,
Yeah.
our Pujari teams will take daily darshan pictures and send them to broadcast audience. It's very nice. They get darshan that way. So maybe they should have a good camera, right? But do you need it? You don't really, right? For your Krishna
Yeah.
consciousness, you don't need to be able to take the sharpest, most uh, amazing pictures. Rather, you'll
Mm.
spend time and effort on that. You have to learn to be true to yourself and truthful, actually. Because, yes, in the beginning, it's very clear. It's all just blatant sense gratification. But then we learn that we should actually be dovetailing it and using things in Krishna's service. So in this concept of Yukta Vairagya, there's a whole important principle,
Yeah.
which I'll get to now. But with that, you then start almost reverse processing all your prior decisions. So you already like this sense gratification. Let me see how I can justify it with Krishna consciousness. Well, Yukta Vairagya is not about retrospective justification. It's about 2 words are there, Yukta and Vairagya. You can only do Yukta if you already have Vairagya, if you're going to meet the terms of that meaning. Yukta means action,
What?
engagement. Vairagya means renunciation. It is not possible for you to actually use those items properly in Krishna's service unless you are detached from them.
What does yukta mean again, Prabhu? I was writing it down.
Yukta means action,
Action.
activity, something that you
Yeah.
do. And
And
Vairagya means renunciation.
So yukta vairagya together means action renunciation.
Mm.
Because I've heard people say yukta vairagya, but how does
It means
mean?
it's
Yeah.
actions which meet the qualification of renunciation, but because
Mm.
they're connected to Krishna, this is all to do with this inaction business.
Mm.
You're acting, but you're not subject to the results of the action. Why? Because it's connected to Krishna. So this principle of dovetailing comes in, or this term dovetail. So, like you have a microphone. And with the microphone, you can belt out a good karaoke number and, you can sing a good old pub song, or if you're in the football stands during a match, you can be screaming and shouting whatever you want, go, go, whatever chants they do. You can do that. If you have a microphone, even better. But instead now, you take the same microphone, instead of like the yogi who will throw the microphone in the bin and say, this is an item of Maya, I'm not going to touch it. The devotee will take that same microphone and use it for broadcasting Krishna. Imagine a whole stadium full of people chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Now, wouldn't that be worth it? Imagine Wembley
Yeah.
Stadium, 80,000 people, full of everyone doing a chant, Hare Krishna. That would really be worth going to see. That's Yukta Vairagya. Of course, then the example I gave with the iPhone, and based on your question as well, is that you already have an aptitude or a desire for this stuff. So you will now get it and you'll come up with elaborate ways to justify it in Krishna consciousness. You have to watch out for that.
Thank you, Prabhu. Yeah.
All right. Okay, so this controlling the mind is very, very important. It's the friend of the soul, but also his enemy. Text 7. I think it's you, Ganesh, bro.
For one who has conquered the mind, the super soul is already reached, for he has attained tranquility. To such a man, happiness and distress, heat and cold, honor and dishonor are all the same.
This is such a significant statement. We've been speaking about attaining the super soul in the previous chapter, heading towards it through the principle of Gyan, renunciation, and then later Nishkam Karma Yoga. But here we're learning that the end destination, complete regulation of the mind, leads you to attain the super soul. So a very nice way to see this is that the mind is a block between us and the super soul. Imagine it like a thick layer of fog or a barrier between us and the super soul. The process of mind control makes it clear and transparent so that the soul can see straight through the super soul instead of seeing some illusion presented through the agency of the mind, fed with multiple inputs from the senses. We could probably draw a nice diagram for this. Maybe I should have produced a slide or something. And you can kind of visualize that. You have this barrier. Maybe you have a TV, right? And you have a TV, a screen. Now, there are some screens being developed which are actually transparent, right? There are some screens which are transparent. And that's what we want. Now, if you choose not to make it transparent, then it can deliver to you messages of the world and inputs from the senses, the whole dashboard of other nonsense that you can entertain yourself with. But if that goes completely transparent, you will actually be able to see right through. And you'll be able to see the super soul. So we very clearly understand from this verse and the previous one that the mind is actually a physical, is an obstacle between us and the super soul. And when the mind is controlled, you have very closely reached the super soul. And it's a very advanced stage of being. And then there are symptoms, once you have attained this, what does it matter? Happiness, distress, heat, cold, honor, dishonor, they don't relate to you at all because you're now fully embracing the glory of the Supreme Lord, before whom all of these things just pale into insignificance. They're not even worthy of contemplating. And this is the platform of kind of a oneness where one sees the material universe as all being equivalently undesirable. Yes, whether it's an elaborate palace or whether it's just a little shack, it's actually all part of the illusion. And yes, there's utility value to either of those, but it's all part of the illusion. You know about the gold chains and the iron chains? A prisoner in the old days, they'd be shackled to a ball or some heavy object or tied up with a chain. Well, maybe some unfortunate prisoner, he gets shackled up with a heavy iron chain so he cannot move much. And then maybe a more refined prisoner gets a gold chain. And then that prisoner goes around boasting, look, I've got a gold chain. I'm clearly better than you are. Oh, you won with the iron chain? What's the end result? The end result is that both are equally chained. It doesn't matter whether it's gold or iron. Their liberty is being completely compromised. So our distractions in this material world are just like that. A big palace, a small shack, they're just different levels of distraction for someone who has attained the super soul. For someone who hasn't, they're of paramount importance. For someone who's attained the super soul, they just become irrelevant. because they no longer think of the body. Now, here's some more descriptions of the yoga process. Bidisha, could you read actually from text, the next two, 11 to 14?
Yes, Prabhu. To practice yoga, one should go to a secluded place and should lay kusa grass on the ground and then cover it with a deer skin and a soft cloth. The seat should be neither too high nor too low and should be situated in a sacred place. The yogi should then sit on it very firmly and practice yoga to purify the heart by controlling his mind, senses, and activities and fixing the mind on one point.
This is an expansion of what was introduced in chapter 5. This is the full version of this. The yoga practice involves creating a sanctified seat and correctly positioned, not high, not too low. You sometimes see in the temple room while people are chanting japa, some have 3 or 4 cushions, some have 1 cushion, some, they do different things. Some start folding cushions until someone tells them off. All these sort of games take place during japa. But the idea is you're trying to just get your body stable. So the question is, are you trying to get your body stable or are you trying to be comfortable?
Comfortable.
The idea, the point is what you should be desiring for is keeping everything erect, the neck, spine, all straight in one line, so that distractions don't come. You automatically know if you slouch like this, what happens? Where is your mind? Where is your focus? Or if you start dozing off, leaning back, you know what happens. So physical conditions are necessary for this yogic practice because it is directly the process of withdrawing senses from sense objects. So you do all this and control the mind, senses, and activities by fixing the mind on one point. That we spoke about between the eyebrows. Sometimes people focus on a candle as a point of focus. Sometimes they'll focus at some distant object, some static distant object, like the horizon. The idea is that your senses know that that's all you're going to get. And your senses don't keep looking here, there, everywhere, trying to acquire more things. It's like you've set the ground rules and the parameters. Senses, that's all you're allowed now. Just focus on that. Did you read the next one, Vidisha? 13, 14.
One should hold one's body, neck, and head erect in a straight line and stare steadily at the tip of the nose. Thus, with an unagitated, subdued mind, devoid of fear, completely free from sex life, one should meditate upon me within the heart and make me the ultimate goal of life.
Yes, you can try it. Keep the body, neck, and head erect. Stare steadily at the tip of the nose. Right? And one has to be completely disinterested. Now, this extensive discipline doesn't really work if you just do it for a few minutes, 2 minutes or 5 minutes. Most probably after about 10 minutes, your mind is raging with the next concept that you want to ponder or consider. But you have to really go somewhere peaceful to do this, by the side of a river or in some Himalayan jungle or somewhere where you can just do this and no one will bother you. No one will disturb you. Phone won't ring. That's the whole idea. This process is one of yogic discipline. But at its heart, it has this idea of meditating upon Krishna within the heart and making him the goal of life. Super soul meditation. It's not a Mayavad practice or anything. It's a process of concentrating one's intelligence upon the Supreme Lord by just using the Ashtanga Yoga process to help. And the results are there. Text 15. Mazhar?
Thus, Practicing constant control of the body, practicing constant control of the body, mind, and activities, the mystic transcendentalist, his mind regulated, attains to the kingdom of God by cessation of material existence.
Yes, by ceasing material existence through forcible means like this, one attains eventually to the kingdom of God. So that a good result is obtainable when you've practiced this process. Now, next few verses are very important for us just generally. Now, this chapter is useful for us because although we are not particularly interested in actually following an extensive yogic process, because that's actually very difficult to do, and we'll hear the conclusion on this between Arjuna and Krishna shortly. But we can learn a lot from these items that are mentioned here. The underlying principles of withdrawal of sense objects from senses. I mean, we do this with our regulative principles anyway. There is an element of yam niyam with those regulative principles. No meat eating, intoxication, illicit sex, gambling. That immediately is a regulation of the senses by restricting certain activities directly. It's a very useful start. But that is not a dogmatic thing. It is directly avoiding those elements which are highly sinful and will destroy your progress. It is not about restricting all activities and elements. So we restrict ourselves already to some degree, but many of the points made in this chapter, we can actually implement them. While you're sitting trying to chant japa, you should try and be straight, focused, not distracted here, there. Instead of the mind looking at some distant point, your mind should be focused on Krishna's holy name. So it's a direct, analogous aspect to this for us as practitioners. Text 16.
There is no possibility of one's becoming a yogi, O Arjuna, if one eats too much or eats too little, sleeps too much or does not sleep enough.
Well, now we're getting really into the details of our daily life. Yuktahara viharasya yukta chestasa karmasu yukta swapna avabodhasya yogo bhavati dukkha. This verse comes later. Here, this one is nati ashnatastu yogosti na chaikantama anashnataha nachati swapna shilasya jagrato aneva charjuna. Swapna means sleeping, jagrata means waking, right? Ashnata means eating. These are concepts. Eating and sleeping have to be regulated in the yogic process. If you eat too much, you stuff yourself. You can't focus. You eat too little. You're in anxiety, you're agitated, not peaceful. If you don't sleep enough, you can go all cranky. If you sleep too much, you can just be dopey. It's not, neither extreme is good. You need a healthy balance for everyone. Everyone needs a healthy balance. So these can be applied directly by us. Text 17 is the verse I just quoted. Yuktahara viharasya yukta chestasya karmasu yukta swapnavabodhasya yoga bhavati dukkha. When you actually do manage to do this, eating, sleeping, recreation and work, keep them all in balance. Remember, the idea here is balance, not negation. You need to eat. It's not about stopping eating. You need to sleep. You're not trying to stop sleeping. You need to work. Don't try to stop work. And recreation is also needed. A bit of relaxation. If you don't do that, you will become just like a fanatic. We have a saying, don't we, that all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. No? If you just push someone just to be working constantly, and there's no fun. There's no fun. There's no moments of relaxation, a little bit of fun. Then you can become very quickly unstable. So the point here is balance is required. And the result of all this is that even simple material pains can be removed because one practices regulation. Now, Prabhupada speaks on this item of regulation very extensively in different places. He says that our lives are troublesome because we are not regulated. We just do anything at any time. Without that regulation, we are basically wild. The senses are here, there. We develop diseases. We develop problems. We don't have mechanisms for overcoming our difficulties. We're just moving from one drama to the next, unregulated, undisciplined. Regulation is very key. Often we form good habits. Sometimes we keep them. It depends when. Different people do it at different times. Depends on your association largely. Maybe your parents raised you to follow good habits, to have some discipline. You know, you get up, you do certain things, and you have your toothbrushing routine, you have all these things, and you do all those things. And parents will generally try to give that to you. But maybe you didn't have that. Or maybe you got a newer sense of discipline, say from joining the army. Sometimes when people join the army, they get a whole different set of procedures to follow. Get up, do this, make your bed, press ups, whatever. It gives you a framework of discipline. Some people do it through their work. Some do it through hanging out with certain people in social circles. Oh, somehow, disciplined framework helps you become productive, helps deal with the needs of the body so that all the energy is available for the real stuff. All right, let's hear any comments or anything on this. There's lots of these points mentioned. Text 19, it says, a lamp in a windless place does not waver. So the transcendentalist whose mind is controlled remains always steady in his meditation on the transcendent self. You've seen probably a lamp burning nicely without wavering. Sometimes you've seen the flames going all over the place with their currents. Mind is controlled. The flame can look very peaceful and static. And that is a symptom of attaining steadiness in yoga practice. Steady peacefulness. Now that's the worst thing for some people. Those in the mode of passion could not stand the thought of that. They would love to just be doing some activity. I think what we'll do is let's take a break at this point. We've introduced the topic of yoga, meditation. We've moved on to it through the introduction from chapter 5. And just consider now that these are the details by which one can actually practice a certain type of yogic focus and attain a concentrated opening of a channel towards the Supersoul. We'll continue from text 20 to 23 after. All right, let's come back at 12 o'clock, okay? All right, thank you. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Haribol. Yes. Okay. Here we are going through yoga. Yoga as a concept, yoga as a process, yoga as an activity. Right, and we covered up to text 19. Text 20 to 23 explains that when one practices yoga properly, one enters a state of joyous, peaceful tranquility, and one becomes enlightened. That's if the yoga successfully takes place. And that's if one's meditation on the Supersoul fructifies and one becomes actually receiving association from the Supersoul. That's not guaranteed, right? Because many people will begin yoga practice and not achieve the results. This is contingent upon success taking place in this. And the rewards are, well, they're quite nice. One never departs from the truth. There's nothing further that one could gain other than the results obtained so far through yoga. And text 24, 25, they really emphasize that one needs to really focus on this overcoming of sense gratification. One needs to focus the intelligence, focus the mind, focus them on the Supersoul. That's the correct way for yogic success. Focus the intelligence, focus the mind, both on the Supersoul, instead of on the sense objects. It says directly here in text 25, and thus the mind should be fixed on the self alone and should think of nothing else. The self alone and should think of nothing else. Text 26, could someone read it? I don't know where we were in the list. Why don't you start, Bidisha? Oh, Mazar, okay.
Okay. From wherever the mind wanders due to its flickering and unsteady nature, one must certainly withdraw it and bring it back under the control of the self.
So do you really think that when you engage in this yoga practice that everything will be rosy and sunny? Well, we'd like to think so. Ganesh is saying yes, it's going to be great for him. I may have my doubts personally. The point is that the mind's going to wander around the universe in a very short period of time. Let's take a typical japa session. Around the whole universe and back and off for another lap. Well, the point is that we forget this point. Wherever it wanders, due to its inevitable flickering and unsteady nature, one should withdraw it and bring it back under the control of the self. Let it go there, just bring it straight back. Like a dog on a leash. Let the leash out for a bit, the dog runs off. Then you pull it back again when needed. That's how the mind should be. Don't be annoyed that the mind went wandering. Actually, for most of us, we're not annoyed, we're fully enjoying it. It's us indulging or entertaining other things because we like them. Sense gratification. We like it. So there's no question of us withdrawing it because we like it too much. But we have to learn that system if we're going to follow yoga practice. We have to bring it back under all conditions, wherever it goes, bring it back. And if you do manage to succeed, then you attain what it says here, attain the highest perfection of transcendental happiness. And that yogi is considered to be beyond the modes of passion. and realizes his transcendental position. And it's all really emphasizing the same things. And he's never lost from that position. And, well, does it sound nice? Gunesh Prabhu, would you like to try it? This yoga system? Yeah, okay. We give it a go for a week, and if you can report back, let us know how it went. I'm sure, I think you can make it. I think you can make it. Well, text 33. Vidisha, could you read text 33?
Arjuna said, O Madhusudana, the system of yoga which you have summarized appears impractical and undurable to me, for the mind is restless and unsteady.
Oh dear. This is Arjun, the one who could control his mind so that he could hit the eye of a bird by looking at its reflection through a revolving mesh or something. This is Arjun with that level of discipline and focus who says the mind is restless and unsteady. And he's saying this process that you've described, Krishna, is impractical and unendurable. Well, I don't know if any of you are wondering the same thing as well. Text 34. Next. It's Roshni.
The mind is restless, turbulent, obstinate, and very strong, O Krishna, and to subdue it, I think, is more difficult than controlling the wind.
Chanchalam himana Krishna. Chanchala all over the place. Agitating and strong. Balavat Tridam. Very strong, stubborn, obstinate. And Arjun's just telling it straight as it is. Really, it's just honestly saying, look, I am a good warrior, but you're asking me to control my mind. I can control the wind. Yes, if you want me to do that, I'll try that. I can do that with my weapons and my prowess. But control the mind, it seems impossible. Text 35.
Lord Krishna said, O mighty armed son of Kunti, it is undoubtedly very difficult to curb the restless mind, but it is possible by suitable practice and by detachment.
Okay, Krishna says it's difficult, but not impossible. It must be done by practice and detachment, not by fanaticism or, as I like to call it, the one-day timetable, where on a moment of feeling particularly fired up or excited, you produce an elaborate timetable involving lots of japa, involving getting up early, involving reading everything, and a whole range of service and work and everything nicely, finely balanced with 5-minute intervals. And let's say you get through half the day, then you kind of forget what was next, and then you say, oh, what's the point of it all? Anyone done that kind of timetable before? Yeah, we've tried it, right? We've tried it. We don't need kind of one-shot wonders like that. We need to actually have proper focused, disciplined action. And that needs practice. Practice, practice, practice. Nothing comes easily. All the skills you've learnt, they've come through practice. If you've done cooking, I doubt you were amazing from step one. I think you probably made you had a few burnt recipes and a few things not smelling quite right, and maybe combined the wrong things together. Maybe made an explosion or something even, possibly. I don't know what people do. But some practice is required to get a little good at it. Practice means you have to stick at it for a long period of time. And in this modern age of instant success, instant gratification, well, who's going to be interested in that? Well, the choice you make is up to you. What does Krishna say? Text 36.
Do I read or?
Yeah.
Okay. For one whose mind is unbridled, self-realization is difficult work. But he whose mind is controlled and who strives for appropriate means is assured of success. That's my opinion.
Bottom line, Krishna is saying is if your mind is uncontrolled, you're in big trouble. Mind uncontrolled, big trouble. Self-realization is not really going to happen. But if you control your mind, you will attain success. I'm not giving you any get-out-of-jail-free card, Arjun. He's saying very clearly here. Just by complaining to me that you can't control the mind doesn't mean I'm going to give you some other way to attain success. You must do it. It's quite straightforward. It's the kind of information we sometimes need to hear. The Guru sometimes needs to tell us. Just do it. You have to do it. There's no alternative. Do it. So Arjun is understandably, actually, before we do that, someone had their hand up. Someone had raised their hand. Who was it?
Smita Mataji.
Where is she? Okay.
She's unmute.
All right. Okay. So text 37 then.
Can I ask something?
You want a question? Yeah.
Yeah. So in chapter 35, in the purport, Prabhupada mentioned about 9 types of devotional service.
Huh.
Um,
In the purport to 35.
yes.
Okay.
One engages in 9 types of devotional service to the Lord.
Where is that? Ah, yes. 9 types of devotional service. Yes.
What are those 9 types?
Okay. I'll give you the first one, Shravanam.
Okay, hearing.
Next one.
Kirtanam, I know.
Yes.
Then
Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Pada Sevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam. This is described by Prahlad Maharaj.
okay.
Iti pumsarpita Vishnu Bhaktis Chen Navalakshana Kriyeta Bhagavati Adha Tanmanye Dhitam Uttamam. These are 9 processes. So Shravanam is hearing. Kirtanam is chanting, speaking the glories. Vishnu Smaranam, remembrance of the Lord. When you hear and you chant, especially when you hear, you will, or when you read, remembrance. So often reading is paralleled, is equated with remembrance. Kirtan Vishnu Smaranam, Pada Sevanam, serving the Lord's lotus feet.
Okay.
Archanam, deity worship.
Okay.
Vandanam, offering prayers.
Okay.
Dasyam is actual servitorship.
Okay.
Which is more connected with actually being in a rasa of a servitor, as a servant of the Lord. Sakyam, friendship.
Mm.
And Atmanivedanam, complete absorption
Okay.
in the service of the Lord. So these 9 items are the process of devotional service, and we're advised to basically follow all of them.
Mm.
And any one of them can give you perfection. We hear of Parikshit Maharaj who attained success by simply hearing, Shravanam. We know of Shukadev Goswami who attained success by simply speaking, right?
Yeah.
And there's one for each one of these. The particular person who attained success, they're very, very powerful. Prahlad Maharaj identifies these 9 types of devotional service, and we practice as many of them as we can. Krishna says somewhere, Bhakto sime sakha cheti rahasyam ye taduttamam, right? Because you're my friend and my devotee, I will reveal this confidential knowledge to you. So we're getting towards the stages of, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Padasevan, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, friendship, and Atmanivedanam, total surrender and absorption.
So it is sequential as well. Because the dasyam is the ultimate stage that we want to be always. And
Dasyam Atmanivedanam is the ultimate stage.
okay.
Dasyam is below Sakyam even. Dasyam,
Okay.
Sakyam. But to say they're below is not quite the right
I
picture.
mean, like maturity level or maybe something like.
Not even necessarily. But one thing we can say is that it does definitely start with Shravanam.
Mm.
It definitely starts with Shravanam because that is the most important thing for us, Shravanam in this day and age. And then as you participate in the mission, that is Kirtanam. So then you really move forward leaps and bounds when you do that as well, because it's specifically the Yuga Dharma.
Mhm.
You should always be contemplating, remembering the pastimes of the Lord, remembering the philosophy, contemplating it. All of that is necessary.
Mhm.
Okay, good.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you.
So it is possible by practice and detachment from the sense objects, and by practice. Okay, you didn't get up out of bed today on time. Try again tomorrow. Try it again the following day. Try it again the following day. Keep going, keep practicing, never let up. That's what you need to follow this process properly. So Arjun now asks this question, okay, Krishna, I've heard everything you have to say on this topic, but, I've still got a doubt in my mind. This process seems a bit troublesome. And what happens if you mess it up? He basically says that. He said, what's the destination of the unsuccessful transcendentalist who takes to this process with good faith, and then, because of their weakness, he does not attain to perfection? And then Arjun says, very important verse. He says, doesn't such a person become like a riven cloud? A riven cloud is a cloud in the sky separated from the rest of the clouds, just like on its own, a little cloud in the middle, neither in the realm of transcendence and neither in the realm of the material world. It's like he's missed out on both of them. He's missed out the sense gratification that he could have had by just wholeheartedly being a materialist, and he hasn't achieved the delights and the rewards of being a transcendentalist because he was weak and undisciplined and just fell down because of worldly weakness. This is Arjun's doubt. He said, isn't it risky if I start this? And you'll see there's an astounding parallel between this expression of Arjun's and the thought process in every devotee's mind as they take Krishna consciousness more seriously. What if I don't do it? What if I give up this? What if I give up that? And what if I goof it up? Then I will have lost everything. A very genuine concern. Very much needs to be addressed. 38. I've just read 38. And then 40. Krishna responds. Could we have, let's change the order a bit based on who's here now. Bidisha, Mazar, Roshni. And then Guanesh if you appear, but your whole room is very dark. Ah, that's better. That's better. I thought you'd moved into a cupboard or something. All right. If you keep to that order, let's start. Vidisha, if you can do 40.
The Supreme Personality. Sorry. Move on. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, Son of Pritha, a transcendentalist engaged in auspicious activities does not meet with destruction either in this world or in the spiritual world. One who does good, my friend, is never overcome by evil.
First point made by Krishna. Even if you're an unsuccessful transcendentalist, well, it doesn't even say that. It says the very fact that you became a transcendentalist engaged in auspicious activities. Transcendentalist means you aspired for transcendence, not that you reached it. You tried the process. You do not meet with destruction in this world or in the spiritual world. And you are immediately protected from evil. That's quite good, no? You attempted this, and you will therefore never be overcome by evil. Ultimately, there will be you will be protected in some way. We'll deal with the nuances of all of this in a little while. 41.
The unsuccessful yogi, after many, many years of enjoyment on the planets of the pious living entities, is born into a family of righteous people or into a family of rich aristocracy.
Okay. Well, first you get to enjoy for some time, and then you will have your birth in a family of righteous people, good people, or a family of wealthy merchant aristocracy. Right? This is the Suchinam Srimatam Gehe verse. Prapya Punya Kritam Lokam Ushitva Shashvati Sama Shuchinam Srimatam Gehe Yoga Brashto Vijayate. And so this just benefits you get just by trying to practice the platform of transcendence. Then here's another option that could happen. Text 42.
Or if unsuccessful after long practice of yoga, he takes his birth in a family of transcendentalists who are surely great in wisdom. Certainly such a birth is rare in this world.
Yes, you may well be born in a devotee family, connected with proper Krishna consciousness, or a family of transcendentalists of maybe a different denomination or something, but more than a family of righteous people. Instead of a family of piety, you may actually get a family of those who aspire for transcendence. Maybe you're born as the son of a Brahmana in a traditional Brahmana Gurukul setting or something like that. You have the chance to actually learn from an early age how to. You're trained in transcendence from the beginning. Maybe that's what could happen. Who knows? And it's Krishna says such a birth is rare in this world. Now, what happens when you get this birth? Next one.
On taking such a birth, he revives the divine consciousness of his previous life, and he again tries to make further progress in order to achieve complete success, O son of Kuru.
Yes, the idea, the point is that yes, he will take another birth. And what happens then is the consciousness that he developed, the divine consciousness, or the focus on the Lord that he developed in his previous life becomes reawakened, and he undertakes further progress to achieve complete success. Now, sometimes I like to think that we are seeing this happening around us in Prabhupada's ISKCON movement. There are people who come to the movement who are from all sorts of different backgrounds, right? Different backgrounds. And at some point, they take to Krishna consciousness, and some of them accelerate very, very rapidly. After a short period of time, they are practicing to a much higher degree than many others have done for their entire lifetime so far, in terms of their dedication, their surrender, their attachment to the holy name, or at least their respect for it, and their loyalty to Prabhupada and their loyalty to Krishna. You see many bhaktas like that. You see many people who join, they seem new, they seem like they don't know much, but this process may well be happening there. That their previous dormant, the previous state they attained is now being awakened, and they're now making further progress. So this is a very great advantage. Text 44.
By virtue of the divine consciousness of his previous life, he automatically becomes attracted to the yogic principles, even without seeking them. Such an inquisitive transcendentalist stands always above the ritualistic principles of the scriptures.
Somehow you are attracted by it, even though there's no rational reason for it. Everyone around you may even be against it, but somehow you're attracted to it. It's something mystical. It's because of this, that there was some progress made in the past and you didn't quite make it, and somehow now you are reviving wherever you got to. to have another go, to continue. And such a person, even though technically it may be that he fell down or he gave up the path or something, he is considered to be way above the ritualistic follower of the principles of the scriptures. Sometimes we say the ritualistic brahmanas, or those just engaged in the little messages or the detail of doing this way, washing your hands in this way, doing that. They're all important, but that's not the goal. A person who somehow manages to actually pursue the path of genuine transcendence is considered even higher than someone who becomes a ritualistic practitioner of faith. So it's very important that we adopt a path which is actually of transcendence, not of just material rituals. And then it says, text 45.
And when the yogi engages himself with sincere endeavor in making further progress, being washed off all contaminations, then ultimately achieving perfection after many, many births of practice, he attains the supreme goal.
After many, many births, after being washed of all contaminations, he attains the supreme goal. Who knows which birth it is that someone is on at this point? Is it the second one after their initial foray into transcendence? Or are they now getting the chance to access Lord Chaitanya's mission after numerous births in the past, when they simply worked on and built up and improved their transcendence level each time? We don't know. We do know that this Sankirtan mission has the capacity to award the highest benedictions and benefit. We do know that clearly. That's Lord Chaitanya's promise. That's Lord Chaitanya's purpose in coming. And it can save you directly. So we don't know where those people are that we meet. And the real benefit that one attains the supreme goal, well, this is what we're after, isn't it? So Arjun is being told clearly by Krishna is you don't need to worry about failing. If you fail, your next life you will take off from wherever you were, and you will revive that consciousness that you attained. You'll carry on, and in the end, you will attain the supreme goal. Does that sound nice? Does that sound like a process worth pursuing? Yeah, it's not a one shot at it. You don't get one shot, and if you mess it up, finished. Eternal damnation. No, that doesn't appeal to anyone. You will have a chance to progress yourself in a healthy, wholesome way for as long as it takes. Life after life. Then we have two verses which are like conclusions on this matter. Next one.
A yogi is greater than the ascetic, greater than the empiricist, and greater than the fruitive worker. Therefore, O Arjuna, in all circumstances, be a yogi.
The ascetic, we've read about the ascetics, the empiricists, the fruitive workers. We've heard details of them. The yogi is the best. Therefore, O Arjuna, in all circumstances, become a yogi. Text 47.
And of all yogis, the one with great faith, who always abides in me, thinks of me within himself, and renders transcendental loving service to me. He is the most intimately united with me in yoga, and is the highest of all. That is my opinion.
Yoginamapi sarvesham matgatenantaratmana shraddhavan bhajate yo mam samayukta tamo mataha. Of all yogis, the one who with great faith abides in me. Not just abides in transcendence or abides in following some practice of sense restraint. It has to be directly concentrated on Krishna, whose thoughts are always reposed in Krishna, who thinks of Krishna constantly, and who renders transcendental loving service to me. That is the one who is most connected to me. And that's the highest. So the platform of a devotee transcends the platform of the ascetic, transcends the platform of the Ashtanga yogi, and is very much the desired and recommended path from Krishna himself. It is very difficult after reading this verse and indeed this chapter to come to an understanding that Krishna wants us to become an Ashtanga yogi as a means of first preference. He wants us, if we're honest, to become a bhakta. One who with great faith always abides in me. He is the highest of all. So it's very clear. Yes, Ganesh?
Prabhu, from the text, I forgot the text where it says that basically after birth, we'll just keep going and we'll eventually reach the goal. So how do we balance that fact along with the fact that we want to get back very quickly, right? Because if we know that slowly we'll make it there, then where will the urgency come from to go back to Krishna quickly? Because everyone says we should go back in this life, but also not like nothing goes wrong if we take longer. Of course, we have to go through the whole material body, get birth and old age and disease and all that. How do we? Yeah.
Well, that decision is yours alone to make. How quickly do you want to get back there? Do you want to be on the express road? Do you want to be in a bus lane? Do you want to be on the motorway? Do you want to take a plane? It's your choice.
Yeah.
Your choice alone. To what extent do you accept the path of transcendence as being superior to your other engagements? And to what aspect is it a part of your daily timetable? Is it a part or is it the part? That's each individual's choice. Yes, it could take many births. It could take many, well, whenever birth is there, death is there as well. It could take many births and deaths, many lifetimes. The number is unknown, depends on our sincerity and our dedication to Krishna consciousness. But everyone is going to have a different angle on this in terms of their own desires. Because what Krishna doesn't do is control people's desires. He gives Arjun here recommendations for what are correct desires, what you should be looking for. You know, as we've read already, duty as opposed to what sense gratification you may get from it. That's a better desire, but he doesn't enforce that on Arjun. So if we know we would like to be back in the spiritual world with Krishna, question is, do I want to spend, say, 50% of my life not doing that? And then with the other 50%, I'll get somewhere and then I'll continue next life and I'll continue until I finally decide I want Krishna. Because you do need 100% Krishna before you go to the spiritual world. That's the requirement for spiritual world specifically. 100% Krishna, no other agendas. So do you want to do that now? You can. But you want to wait a bit? Yeah. You can. But when you wait for it, it's not necessarily going to be available at the point you want it. But that's between Krishna and the devotee. He will make mystical arrangements. Don't try and calculate it. I guess that's all I'm saying. These passages are basically saying that if you do goof it up, all is not lost. But don't try to game that to you know.
That makes sense for me. Yeah.
Because it keeps emphasizing the sincere yogi, the transcendentalist, the practitioner, one who keeps trying sincerely and just doesn't make it despite their sincerity. Then there's a safety net for them.
Yeah. Thank you, Prabhu. Yeah.
So this chapter, Masa?
Sorry, Guruji, may I ask, for example, at home, how can we worship to Krishna? Like chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, or like an altar, a picture of Krishna, Arjun, or giving a lighting a lamp, or can you please advise me, for example, regularly at home, what can I do?
Yes, these processes that we spoke about earlier, these 9 processes, They should be our guideline with this. These are the 9 processes specifically of devotional services, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Pada Sevanam, Archanam, Vandanam. We can deal with these first 5 or 6. These are the most important ones. Hearing, you can make a nice little schedule for yourself where you hear some classes, some lectures. You're obviously now studying, so a good chunk of that hearing is taking place anyway, connected to Shastra. And you'll be hearing some other speakers as well as this course continues. So that is very good. In terms of Kirtanam, chanting the holy name is the recommendation. Chant the holy name. Vishnu Smaranam, contemplate. What you've read, what you've studied, you may write some essays, you may learn some verses, contemplate it. Don't do it just mechanically. I think you won't do that anyway by desire, but it could happen accidentally. So think of it consciously, spend 5-10 minutes contemplating. In the class today, we heard about the journey of the yogi and the mind and how murky it is, and how if it's made transparent and clear, we can connect direct to the super soul. How can I make my mind, that kind of thinking, contemplation? That's Vishnu Smaranam, really. Pada Sevanam, try to do some service. I know most people's devotional service took off when they started doing some service. Sometimes temple service, sometimes assisting others' service, assisting a devotee. They're doing some menial service, something for them, something. Somehow seize the opportunity is what I'm saying. If depending on how close you are to the temple, it may not be so easily available, but the opportunity may be there in some way. And in today's world with digital stuff, there can be so much that can be done actually, just even without physical proximity. Dasyam, Shravanam Kirtan Vishnu Smaranam, Pada Sevanam, worshipping the lotus feet of the Lord. We can do that in our minds. Worship the lotus feet of the Lord. Yes, you can, if you want, you can have a picture of Srila Prabhupada, a picture of Radha Krishna. And yes, you can offer them incense. There's a very nice simple thing that one can do, offer them incense. Occasionally you can offer flowers. Some very simple act of worship, because Krishna does say later, Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam. These are things anyone can do anywhere. Nothing's required for it. And where the facility exists, where you may be able to actually join some service program, join as a volunteer somewhere, do some more extensive service. Marathon is coming. Try and give out the Gita to someone. That'll be fantastic service if you can do that. Find a friend or someone and just tell them, try this. This knowledge will actually help you in your life. That's an excellent service. So these are all services that you can render. And I think you'll see results. And when you start doing these, and you probably do them already, when you start doing some of them, you will see they lead you into more avenues of clearer direction and better guidance. Yes, anyone else? Do you have a question or something to do with this? We've learned many components now over 6 chapters. From chapter 1, setting the scene, Arjun's doubts. Chapter 2, a condensed summary of all aspects, the modes, the situation of the soul, the need to avoid sense gratification, control of the senses, dhyayata vishayan pumsam, if you remember, how the senses drag one down, to the whole concept of purifying our actions by connecting them to Krishna. So this whole section, chapters 1 to 6, is often termed Karma Yoga. This is very much dealing with the need for us to act and to work, but to do so in a spirit of renunciation, as we discussed today. To work, but in the spirit of renunciation. And then we learn in this chapter certain techniques or the importance of keeping the mind focused. So this is basically set up everyone very nicely, hopefully, for good entrance into the Gita. You can see just how much detail there is in this Gita. Just how much actual, almost every sentence can be scrutinized. You can meditate on it for an hour, every sentence within the verse. There is a lot here. Certain things were repeated for Arjun's sake. In chapter 3, chapter 5, certain things were repeated. And to emphasize it for us also, that they're important. Chapter 4 contained a whole load of very, very important verses regarding Krishna's position. Krishna's position as being different to our position. Not one, different. But qualitatively the same, which we spoke about in today's verse. One merges qualitatively into transcendence. It was mentioned. So you have a whole load of food for thought there. Some of it is ready for actual application. Some of the points I mentioned to Mazhar Prabhu, others can also be doing those. Some principles of devotional service, wherever you are, you can be trying to enhance and increase your devotional service to Krishna. So it's tangible. Try controlling the mind. That's a lifelong endeavor, continuous endeavor. Try it next time you chant the holy name. From wherever and whenever the mind wanders due to its flickering nature, one should bring it back under the control of the self. Right? Imagine if that thought goes on in your mind when the mind has already wandered off to Timbuktu somewhere. You can bring it back. Bring it back to sunny old England or wherever you are. Yes, practical. There's very, very practical tips and techniques. Just as a lamp in a windless place does not waver. Yes, so many thoughts and other things may come, but I should be steady and focused. Do you have anything you would like to ask or to add or? Well, it is a great credit that you've embarked on this course. I hope it's been of some interest. I don't know who the next speaker is who will take you through chapters 7 to 12 and beyond. But I wish you all the best. We will
Thank you very much, Guruji.
conclude our
for-
lessons on the first 6 chapters.
You will not return for any other chapters?
I'm not scheduled to currently. I'm not sure. We'll see how it goes. But it's chapters 1 to 6 I was assigned. I think I'm right. Around 8 lessons or so. We've covered that material. But yes, no, there'll be some other speakers as well. And yes, you can keep in touch.
Okay.
Yes, you're welcome.
Thank you, Prabhu.
And hopefully one day I'll meet all of you in person. Yes.
Where are
Do you
you
live in London, Prabhu?
situated, Prabhuji?
Sorry?
Where are you situated over here in London? Which temple?
I'm a bit confused myself at the moment. I'm mainly based at Bhaktivedanta Manor. Currently, I'm in our ISKCON South London temple. So I travel between the two generally. I'm overseeing the South London project at the moment. So I'm here for half the week roughly.
Oh, okay.
So it's an interesting little setup there. But my main temple has been Bhaktivedanta Manor.
Oh, okay. You do come to Soho sometimes?
I do sometimes. It's been a little, it hasn't happened recently, I would say. Before I used to come and actually I used to teach on site, Bhakti Vaibhav. We
Oh,
had a whole group for a few years. I was actually coming on site every day, and from time to time I'll pop down. Uh, but generally I'm now traveling. It's quite a long travel, from from the Manor to South London. So that's quite a trek every week anyway. So we'll see, but somehow we had Dalmara Prabhu here with us last week in South London. So yes, there's a routine exchange going on.
How many temples are there in London, Prabhu?
These are the 3 temples, Manor
Okay.
Mosley and Soho Street. These are the 2 main temples. Then South London Temple's been here for a long time, but it hasn't kind of taken off as a fully functioning temple, but especially after COVID. So we're just trying to rejuvenate it and bring it back again. But
Wow.
yes, it's a nice community, wonderful community. You're welcome to visit.
It's quite a far trip from Australia. Well, maybe one day I'll come.
One day.
Rishi, may I ask, darshan meaning is the view of the God? I don't.
Darshan?
Mhm.
Yes, darshan means to take, yes, darshan means to have sight of. And it means specifically you take darshan of Krishna. Means, say you're looking at the deities and you're taking darshan of them. They're giving you their audience, like that. It's like the king will offer audience. So it's like the deities are giving you darshan. They're letting you see them. It includes those elements to it as well, so you're in the right mood, that the deities by their grace, Krishna by his grace, is letting me see him. He's giving darshan at this point.
Yeah.
All right.
Babu, are you going to India anytime soon?
Am I sorry?
Are you going to India anytime soon?
I will be in January, yes.
Where I'm going to be in Mayapur in January, Prabhu.
Oh,
Are
okay.
you?
I'm doing a bit of traveling in January. I'm going to Ayodhya, Varanasi,
Wow,
Vrindavan, then Gujarat as well, Dwarka, whole yatra. So
nice.
this
Wow.
visit I won't go to Mayapur, otherwise I normally go every year. But yeah, I'm sure it'll happen some other time.
Well, yeah. Okay. I get it, Prabhu. Thank you so
We'll
much.
see each other, I think, somewhere as
Yeah.
the journey of time takes us. I think
Mm.
somehow or other we will catch up by Krishna's grace. But it's been wonderful having all your association. Very
We,
much relished it.
yeah,
Thank you for your
privileged.
nice questions.
We are more privileged to have
Yes.
the opportunity to learn from you, Prabhuji.
Thank you. It was a nice experience.
Yeah.
Thank you. All the best. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna.
Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Vanchakalpa